Hey guys, it's me, Christina at Why Not Be Authentic, and I am so excited to launch our podcast here at Why Not Be Authentic. I'm so excited to be here today as this has been a goal of mine for a very, very long time to launch a podcast as it pertains to mental health. Hi, again, I'm Christina. I am 36 years old, soon to be 37. I am a mom of two, a beautiful little boy and a beautiful little girl, Blake and Annalise, happily married. And I am a registered nurse by trade and recently was a regional trainer and senior therapeutic specialist selling infusions for breast cancer. Well, I decided to take a chance and it was a very smart idea or it was a very stupid idea. I don't know. You guys can decide, but I have decided to start my mission in advocating for mental health because it has affected myself and my family for as long as I can remember. So if you know me, then you know I started on TikTok in August of 2023 as Why Not Be Authentic, really getting on there because I was going through my own bout of depression and anxiety. And we're going to talk about that a little later. With that, I decided to go live and share. And within 6 months, we grew to 43,000 followers, which is unreal to me. And it's really been more of a mission to have a safe space, a safe place where we can openly talk about the struggles that we have had in regards to mental health. If you know anything about mental health, then you know that there are over 200 mental health diagnoses. And with that being said, there has always been such a stigma associated with mental health. And I am here. My mission, my goal of this podcast is to stop the stigma that is associated with talking about mental health. And that is what we're doing here. Mental health does not discriminate. It does not matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you're educated or not. It doesn't matter if you're famous or not. It doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor. It doesn't matter if you're a parent or not. It doesn't matter if you're married or not. It does not matter what your race is. It does not matter how you identify yourself as. It does not matter what your political affiliation is. It does not matter what you do for a living. It does not matter where in this world you live. Mental health does not discriminate. And the problem that we are facing today is an epidemic. Yes, I will say it again. It is an epidemic when it comes to the stigma associated with mental health, but also an epidemic with mental health and not having enough resources for the struggles that we have when we are going through our mental health crisis. So this season on Why Not Be Authentic, you will have me talking. We will have guests from my family. We will have guests from high profile statuses. We will have musicians, magicians. We will have high profile people that have been on the news. We will have people that work everyday lives. We will have people of all different backgrounds that will be joining as a guest this season on Why Not Be Authentic to really advocate for mental health and share with us their story of their struggles with mental health and the journey that they are on as they are healing through this process and navigating through the mental health process, and really discuss the crisis that we're in today. At the end of the day, that's what we need. And quite frankly, I feel a big part of the negativity that is in our country today, in the world today, is because people struggle with mental health and they don't feel comfortable talking about it. And I want to start this season by talking about Rosalind Carter. Rosalind Carter was the first lady of the former president, Jimmy Carter, known as the first lady of advocating for mental health at a time when mental illness was parity to physical disease. And it was a novel idea at that time. It wasn't the norm. I want to start with her on this first episode because I think it's important to look at the history of where we have come, how far we've come when it comes to mental health and mental illness, but how much farther we need to go. Now, do I feel like we've gotten better since then? Yeah. But do I feel like we have so much more work to do? 100%. And so the reason I brought up Rosalind Carter on this first season and this first episode of Why Not Be Authentic is because she was known as the pioneer that started the work to try to help alleviate the stigma and the discrimination associated with mental health. And that's something that really needs to be done. And I hope that through this podcast, you're going to hear from me and so many others. And my hope is that you will see that it's very common and it's okay to talk about it. And this is always going to be a safe space. And I think the more that we talk about the struggles that we have, the more that we are able to help others. And I want to stress that we have so much more, so much farther that we need to go when it comes to mental health. When it comes to the resources associated with mental health and what we have if someone's going through a mental health crisis, or the fact that people just don't feel comfortable enough talking about their struggles mentally because they don't want to be judged by someone else. Because let's face it, we live in a now social media world. Everything is documented. And cyberbullying is real on top of real bullying. So people are afraid to share their true feelings. People are afraid to talk about what they've really experienced and are going through on a mental level. And that is why the suicide rate is so high. One of the comments that Rosalind Carter stated while she was in office as the first lady when it came or pertained to mental illness, she said, mental illnesses are diseases like any other. They can be diagnosed and treated, and the majority of people who have them can lead fulfilling lives. Do you hear that? Can lead fulfilling lives, working, going to school, and being productive members of their community. And I believe that to be the same today. So thank you to Rosalind Carter, her family members. She was an amazing woman, and she really did care about her people. And so that leads me to, why me? Why am I deciding to get on here and start a podcast, leave my company to advocate for mental health? And I'll tell you, it's because it's affected me my entire life. I'll start with me. I have an older sister. She's 6 years older than me. I have an older brother who is 4 years older than me. And us three are from my mom and dad. I do have a younger half sister that was diagnosed with Asperger's. And she is my half sister from my dad and stuff. Now, our story goes way back. I guess it's way back now. It makes me feel old, but it goes way back to the 90s when my parents got divorced. My parents got divorced when I was 6 years old. And I know that's a story that a lot of us share. But you wouldn't believe the effects that divorced parents can have on children's mental health. And you wouldn't believe the impact that the outcomes to follow affect your adulthood. And I don't really think I ever realized it until more recently. You see, I was the caregiver. I'm a nurse by trade. So if something was happening in our family, if someone was struggling mentally, if someone attempted to unalive themselves, I was the person that would be there to try to help, to the point that I numbed anything and everything I've ever been through. And in that numbing, it made me have a breakdown in my 30s. And that's what led me to this. But I can tell you recently, what started this mission, before I go and share the stories of my family and my childhood and the way I grew up, is that everything caught up with me. Everything caught up with me to the point that I could not get out of bed. And I have two beautiful children. And I knew my role in this life was to be an amazing mom and to help people. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself. I let all the demons from my childhood creep up. All the trauma that I experienced, I let creep up to the point that it changed who I was as an individual, as a wife, as a mom, as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend. And it became a very dark place for me. And that dark place got me to a place where all I did was cry and I could not get out of that bed. I could not make breakfast. I could not make lunch. I could not make dinner. I could not put my kids to bed. I could not sing the prayers, which is so important to us. I couldn't take them to school, which was so important to me. I couldn't do anything but sleep and sleep and cry and sleep and cry and sleep drink it away. That was what I was doing. And it's a really dark period of my life that I'm ashamed of. But I got to that place because I never took the time to prioritize my mental health and all the things that I went through. And so this is the story of me coming back. I had to, or I was going to lose everything I worked so hard to get. Everything, the house, the kids, the family, the love, all of it. I know you guys have been there before. Maybe not every single one of you, but you've been there. Some of you listening have been there. And I will never forget going to look at my husband. God, he has been a lifesaver. He is an amazing man because he has put up with me and he's put up with my family. Sorry, family. But I went to him and I looked at him, bawling my eyes out. And I said, honey, I'm not good. I'm not good. And I don't want to be here anymore. And I don't want to feel like that. And I need to get help. And I'm going to have to take some time off work. And at first, he was a little upset. He was like, he knew I wasn't fine, right? But it was like, you can't take time away from work. And I said, in order for me to survive this, I got to prioritize me for once, my mental health in a healthy way. And so that's what we did. And so I took short-term disability from my job, took about 6 to 8 weeks off. And my husband helped. He set everything up because I just was so out of it. I could not get out of bed or make a phone call. So he set up the appointments for me to go see a psychologist ASAP, to go see a psychiatrist ASAP. And so that's what I did. So I filled out paperwork. I took short-term disability. And I started to see my therapist twice a week and my psychiatrist once every couple weeks. And that was a journey. And that is when I started Why Not Be Authentic on TikTok, sharing my life, the real, the raw, the authentic, all of it. Because I knew that I couldn't keep everything bottled up. And if someone has never gone through mental health struggles, then they're not going to understand what you're going through. And that's a lonely feeling. That's when you start saying those mean thoughts in your head. What's wrong with me? My kids deserve better than me. My husband deserves better than me. My family deserves better than me. What's wrong with me? Why can't I be normal? And let me tell you something. If you've ever had those thoughts, know that they are just thoughts. They are your emotions. And they are your mind beating yourself up. And so prioritizing yourself and your mental health is priority, or you can't take care of anyone else. You can't be that mom or parent that you want to be, that you know you're meant to be. You can't be a good employee. You can't be a good spouse. You can't be a good daughter or son. You're stuck. And when you feel alone, that's even worse. And so I started making videos, sharing the raw, the real, the pretty, the ugly, the everything, the crying, the panic attacks, the negativity that I was feeling, all of it. In the process, I didn't know this was going to happen, but in the process, I found a community of people that could relate to me. Christina, you're not crazy. Christina, you're not wrong for feeling the things you felt. I felt that way before. And it just made me feel a little more alive. And then we grew. Because you know what? There's a lot of people out there that are struggling. And it really helps to find your people and find your community. And here's the thing, there's over 200 mental health diagnoses. I'll tell you what mine are. I've been diagnosed with depression. I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I've been diagnosed with adult ADHD. That's a new one. I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD. I've been diagnosed with childhood trauma. I think that's it. I think that's, it's not easy when you get the diagnosis. But then at the same time, you're like, okay, all right, what's the game plan? But I'm here to say that if you have ever felt down, alone, feel like this world is better without you, feel like you're not a good parent or a good spouse or a good sibling or a good employee, I'm here to tell you that that is your brain playing tricks on you, because you too may be struggling. And it's not when you have these mental health diagnoses, it's not a button that you can push and be like, hey, I'm done. I'm good now. It's also not like we choose to feel this way. It's not like we can push a button and turn it off. So that's what I did. I took 6 to 8 weeks of short-term disability from my job. And I started to go see my counselor twice a week. And I started to get on some medication that was prescribed by a psychiatrist who specializes in my diagnosis. And let me tell you, that was hard. Counseling, it was breakthrough after breakthrough. I don't think I ever went to counseling without leaving crying. And it's amazing, the flashbacks. I knew I had PTSD. Complex PTSD is a newer term. The difference between the two is PTSD is basically traumatic event, a single traumatic event that has made a deep impact on you, where you have flashbacks and mood swings and, depression from it and sadness from it, and go through all kinds of emotions. Complex PTSD is when you've had multiple traumatic events happen in your life, of which I have. And we'll get there. I'll share that with you, but I have had multiple traumatic events that have happened. And the flashbacks for me did not start until this past year, when I had that breakdown and started going to counseling. And then I remembered things that I didn't even know happened. I guess when something traumatic happens to you, something in our brain does its best to try to, block it until something triggers it. You may even not, something may trigger it that you didn't even realize was a trigger, such as a song, a smell. Maybe me, it was everything was coming full force, the depression, the anxiety, everything. And talking about it brought out those feelings, triggered me. And at first, my husband thought, is this good for you? Are you sure this is good for you? Because on top of the counseling, I was starting new medication. Now, I am not a licensed therapist. I'm not here to provide therapy treatments, and I'm not here to diagnose, and I'm not here to prescribe medication, right? If you are struggling, please get into touch with a therapist, get in touch with the psychiatrist, those two that specialize in the things that you're struggling. And nothing against primary care providers, but they really focus on all things medical, right? I think I have realized through everything that seeing a specialized psychiatrist that specializes in all the things that I've been diagnosed with and go through is the best option. But what's really hard is when you get prescribed whatever medication you're going to be on. And if you know anything about these types of medications, whether they're SSRIs or they're antidepressants or anti-anxiety, they're mood stabilizers, whatever they may be, if you know anything about them, the one thing I can tell you is you have to be compliant on these medications and take them every single day at the same time. And it takes about 4 to 6, sometimes 8 weeks, depending on the medication, for you to see the real effects. And so it's important as a person getting prescribed medication for you to do your homework and ask the questions for your provider, your psychiatrist. Ask the questions of what are the side effects? Is there anything I should be worried about? Is there anything I should look out for? Is there anything that I should know? And be compliant on going back to your follow-up appointments and having those conversations, because if you don't, you may be on the wrong medication and it may make things worse. And I will say that was one of the hardest things for me. And I knew from my nursing background that I needed to be compliant on my medication, that I needed to give it a good 4 to 6 weeks, 8 weeks, depending on the medication. I also found that it was a roller coaster. And it's going to be a roller coaster. And that is why a lot of people that struggle with mental health diagnosis struggle with their medication and aren't compliant. And so then they're just going in this circle. But I'm telling you, you've got to stay compliant. And if you have a concern, you talk immediately to your psychiatrist. That is what they are there for. And so I got started on a couple different medications at first. For my ADHD, which was a stimulant, anti-anxiety medication for my anxiety, antidepressants for my depression, and things that helped with PTSD as well. And what I can say is it took a good 6 months to get the right medication, to know which medication was the best for me. And it took trial and error to know which ones were not good for me. And you'll know by the way a medication makes you feel. You'll know if that medication was good or if that medication was bad. You will know. And I think that's where a lot of people that struggle with mental health get stuck, because it is taxing on you when you're going through that roller coaster of emotions, trying to get used to the medication. It's hard, but you got to look at the bigger picture. What is your why? What is your why? What's important to you? Why are you doing this? Because you want to get better, because you want to be happy, because I want to be a great mom, an amazing mom, the mom that I know that I am. I want to be an amazing wife, the wife that I know that I've been. I want to be that person that I've always known I would be and help others. But I can't do that if I'm not helping myself. And so that roller coaster was tough. And it wasn't just tough on me, it was tough on my family. It's tough on my husband. All of it has been tough on my husband. And so I did have to take times where I would have to call my psychiatrist and say, this is the way this is making, I'm feeling like this right now. This isn't working. I need to change my medicine. And so that's what we did. And I can give one piece of advice to you, to any of you listening, is be compliant, be honest. Don't be ashamed. Being ashamed is not going to get you anywhere. It's going to get you more depressed. It's going to get you more alone. It's going to make you feel so many negative thoughts are going to go through your mind. It's not a good place to be. So advocate for yourself. Talk to your significant other. Talk to someone you love, your support system. And if you don't have anyone, come join our live streams on TikTok and Why Not Be Authentic. And side note, call that number so they don't take away TikTok in the US. Just saying. Because that app has saved my life. And now that we've grown this community to where we have, I now know that it's also saved other people's lives. Now, disclaimers always, right? If you are ever having thoughts of hurting yourself or anyone else, you need to contact 988, the suicide hotline. It's 24/7, and go to your nearest emergency room. Okay. And I am not a licensed therapist, and I am not anyone that's going to prescribe anything or talk about certain medications because it's out of my scope of practice. But what I am here is to be a support system for you guys and to share my stories in hopes that it helps, and to talk about these things in hopes that more people will feel comfortable talking about it. And so that's what I did. I prioritized my mental health and I got on medication, and it was a roller coaster. I did get out of my short-term disability from work. I went back to work, and I realized very quickly the work situation that I was in, which I will talk about at some point in time when I feel comfortable talking about it, was not good for my mental health. And so I, with the support of my husband, and because we financially could do this, not everyone can do this. And I understand that. I'm very aware of that. We were finally at a financial place that this was possible, that I was able to quit my job, give my 2 weeks notice. And in that, I have since then joined an agency, live streaming on TikTok. I started this podcast. This is my first episode. We have so many that have been recorded and so many more to come. And we're going to help so many people. And in the process, you guys are going to help me heal. So stay tuned. Keep coming. Follow us on TikTok, Why Not Be Authentic. Follow me on IG, Why Not Be Authentic. Follow me on YouTube, Why Not Be Authentic. That is where this podcast is going to launch, and Spotify. And I'm here to tell you that it is a journey that is important for us as a whole, as a community, to emphasize the importance of normalizing people discussing and talking about and advocating for mental health. Rosalind Carter did it. I'm not Rosalind Carter. I'm Christina with Why Not Be Authentic. But I'm on a mission to do it too. And I know we're going to save so many lives. And so on top of that, I am working with local governmental officials to get better initiatives for better mental health resources, because that's something else that we're lacking. I'm on a mission, and I know we can do this together. And listen, you are not alone. And the first step is going, I'm not okay. And the second step is going, it's time for me to get help. And that's what I did. And I can't wait to share so many more stories with you and share with you what has happened in my life. I didn't do it yet. I couldn't do it on the first episode. Come on, guys. We got a lot to talk about. So stay tuned. There will be a new episode every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time that will be available on YouTube and Spotify. And remember, if you would like to be a guest, I would love to have you. Please email me at Christina@whynotbeauthentic.com, or you can go to our website, www.whynotbeauthentic.com, where you can go to contact us, and you can email to schedule a Zoom call so that we can get you scheduled. And next week, we're going to have a guest, and he is going to be someone that has recently openly talked about his struggles with mental health. And I am so excited for you guys to tune in. Let's stop the stigma associated with mental health. Let's normalize it. Let's talk about it. We got a lot to talk about. I got a lot to share. We got a lot of guests coming. So stay tuned. Until next time, have an amazing day. Have an amazing week. And tune in next Tuesday for our next episode and our guest speaker. Thanks, guys.